actually by Cleopatra. And that's partly why it was written in Greek, is because she was Greek.
I see.
She was a pharaoh of Egypt, but she was descended from Ptolemy, who was a Greek.
Interesting. So that's how they got those languages on it.
Actually by Cleopatra.
Sorry, we just went live on YouTube.
Is this the Twilight Zone?
Yeah. So it seems that you're a history buff, David. That's me. I love history too, so it's cool, man.
I'm an everything buff. I enjoyed the link you sent Shashir about science, and I read it, and this meeting was about to start, so I started skimming. But that was good.
Oh, Sashir, you're on mute.
Yeah, I haven't read the Stevens book. Yeah, that was just the write-up about the book in the New Yorker.
So what was the Rosetta Stone? I'm sorry. I like history, but I have no idea what the Rosetta Stone is.
Oh, I'll find a picture of it for you.
Rosetta Stone to me is that I think there's a website online that you can learn languages with it, and I didn't know.
Let me
It
see.
was something else.
Let me see.
Yeah, no, it's a famous historical object. It's just like this stone that has like a paragraph written in both Egyptian, Greek, and one other language. I forget.
You'll recognize it.
Oh, really? But what was it? And like what was the objective?
Well, I think it was actually the French who discovered it, and the English and the French fought over it, but the English wound up with an etching, and it was I don't know, it was some guy with the English Royal Society that ultimately figured it out, and that would be a good story because it took 50 years to figure it out. I'm going to see if I can do a share screen.
Yeah, what happened?
Host disabled participant screen sharing. All right, so I can't show you the Rosetta Stone.
No, I'll let you. Let me activate it.
But it's really only two languages, right? It's Egyptian and Greek. That's there's no third language, right?
Well, it's three scripts, and two of them were Egyptian.
2 out of the 3 were Egyptian.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I recall anyway. I could be wrong.
Right. What happened is
David, you can share it if you want. You can share it.
All right. Let's see if I can do this.
I changed the setting. Sorry, Sashir. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, what had happened is people had forgotten how to read.
Is that showing up?
You're on mute again, Sashir. Sorry.
Is that showing up?
All right. I think I shared this with most people that I wanted to share it with.
Did I mess up?
That's the Rosetta Stone. So, but what is it? Like, do we know what the goal?
Oh yeah, we know now. The Rosetta Stone was the figuring that out. You can see the 3 scripts on there. Figuring that out was the first time that we understood what the Egyptians were saying in their writings and carvings.
Okay, I'm gonna start recording. Is that okay?
Sure. Now, do I do something to stop sharing? What do I do?
No, it's cool. It's cool. You can tell us. We're going to talk a little bit about capitalism today and other stuff. Now we're talking about the Rosetta Stone, and David's telling us all about. Share it, David. Let me see it.
Oh, did you not see it?
Very briefly. You can share with us so everybody can get a glimpse. You myself. So, and welcome, Frank. So what was the Rosetta Stone? So what was it designed to do?
as I understand it, it was a proclamation from the Pharaoh of Egypt to the people, who were mostly illiterate, but copies of it were distributed all over the Egyptian kingdom and read aloud.
Okay.
And apparently Wikipedia says it was like a decree that the ruler was like divinely ordained.
Okay, so it's like it was done like to assert the divine right of ruling.
That's what it looks like. I'm just reading it really briefly, but yeah.
Was that from Cleopatra's time?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she's a. Yeah, so it was Egyptian, Greek, and what was the other language?
Demotic, I think it was called. And it is very similar to Greek.
Okay.
Or Latin or something. Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So, yeah, maybe we can start the discussion by talking a little bit about what happened throughout this week. I'm a little bit burnt out because I was a little bit too involved with this stock market drama this week. In fact, I think I want to step away from some of that stuff for a while. But did you guys see what happened with the stock market, the whole thing that happened?
Just what I heard since I logged in here, you know.
Yeah, do you wanna repeat that, Michael? Just give us a quick rundown.
Yeah. The very high level story is a bunch of people on Reddit got together, sort of found a way to manipulate the market collectively at the expense of hedge funds, but to their benefit. So then there was these moral questions. Is what they did morally good? Is what they did morally bad? Is what they did not morally good or bad at all? It depends on whose side you're on, what your perspective is. That's the very high level story.
Well, and that was just the beginning. Then what happened is that on Thursday, because the banks and the funds were taking billions of dollars in losses, so it was a big drama for them.
Yeah.
And what happened is that on Thursday, actually, Robinhood and a lot of some other brokerages, I should say, started, a lot of the other brokerages as well started forbidding people from actually buying these stocks, and they would allow people to sell them, and this went on throughout the whole day on Thursday, and those stocks basically tanked and people lost a lot of money, and the banks kind of like got a reprieve. So all of a sudden, people were stopped from buying this. They could only sell, and they lost a lot of money, people that had the stock. And that's what happened on Thursday. And today, they would only allow people to buy them in limited quantities. So
yeah, so I only really gave the very high level, just some manipulation happened by a bunch of people. Was it good, bad, or neither? But the specifics of it were a few hedge funds, they short sold a large amount of a stock. So I don't know how familiar you are with short selling.
I'm not. Explain it to me.
And Mark is joining us.
So yeah, it gets a little in the weeds. So, but the basics is when someone short sells, they want the stock to go down. You make money by the stock going down, not by it going up, right?
Well, basically you borrow against, so if a stock is worth like $100, I will basically borrow those shares or borrow the money to buy those shares and sell them at 100. I don't actually own the shares. And then what happens is when they drop, I'll buy them back. So let's say company XYZ, I know I get the feeling it's going to drop. I sell them at 100. Then when it drops, I buy them back at, let's say, like 50. So at that point, I made a $50 profit on each share.
So in other words, you buy it at 10 cents and agree to sell it for 20 cents at a given time. And at a given time, I don't understand.
It's kind of complicated, but really the point is that when you short a stock, you're betting that the stock will go down. So that's kind of like the point, and you're basically putting money into the trade. So like making sure that the stock is going to go down. Like so you're pushing the stock down, right? At least you're betting that the stock will go down. So you're trying to basically you're hoping that the company will be worth less.
It's
After a while.
It's what they did in the movie Trading Places. It's what that was what they did, because they had information that the orange crop was actually going to be fine. And then they gave another, like they're basically their rival trade they're trying to get after. They gave them false information that the orange crop was going to be destroyed by frost. So those guys bought up all the orange commodities, which pushed the price of oranges. And then they sold orange commodities. And then the report came out and said the orange crop was fine. That caused the price to plummet. And then they just bought back at the lower price.
There you go. Is that the movie with Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, it's a movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, that's a good movie. But yeah, and I think that partially what happened, like the trouble was, hey, Mario, we can see you. That's nice, man. I want to be with you on that beach. That's
Pensacola.
Yeah, come over, man. Or you can just put it in your background in Zoom. That's much easier. It feels like you're there.
I don't think my.
Hey guys, you probably don't know me. Let me just say a couple words. I'm a good friend with Bruno. Met him like 3-4 years ago in Minneapolis. Now I'm in Boston, but we catch up every now and then. So I'm not an intruder or anything. Not hijacking your Zoom call. Bruno invited me.
Oh yeah,
Nice to
I've
meet
seen
you.
you on the movie podcast before.
The movie podcast, no. Maybe the philosophy podcast, and a couple of them I was there.
he was in a podcast for this channel, but it was just me and him and a friend, and in another case just Mario and me.
Was that one What Makes a Good Life? I think that might have been.
Yeah, that was him and me. Man, Michael, you're like our only listener, I think, or our only watcher.
I'm sure there's more than that.
There were people watching us, Mario, which is pretty great. I think there's people watching right now. There's a couple of people watching right now. So maybe they can write us a comment. But yeah, so basically, yeah, so and I think really the whole thing started, apparently there's these people on Reddit. There's this thing called Wall Street Bets. It's a bunch of people that talk about stocks, investing, and now it's so populous. There are so many of them that those prophecies are starting to become like self-fulfilling prophecies, because there's so many people that are saying, oh yeah, maybe, we should buy this company, that all of a sudden they all buy the company at the same time, or, at a similar point in time, and the company goes up a lot. So you have these self-fulfilling prophecies. And
it's a little, I should say, I just want to, sorry to interrupt, but it's a little trickier than that. So part of it was that a whole bunch of them bought it at once and it went up. Then there's this second order effect, which is once it starts going up enough, the hedge funds that short sold it, they're now forced to buy it back, making it go up even more. So that second order effect is really where they get all the money.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a vicious cycle, right, in a way. And
So did this group within Reddit know what the impact of what they were doing was going to be?
well, yeah. So the interesting thing is the main stock there's a bunch of stocks involved, and unfortunately, I had some of them. But there's the most popular stock, like the stock that people are talking about, and that one really went through the roof. I think it was at like $10 or a little bit more, GameStop, and it's at $300 right now or something like that. I mean, there's been some considerable volatility, but it went from say 10 to 300, in a very short space of time. And I think like the original motivation is that these people got really upset that all these hedge funds, like these billionaires, were going against this company that they like. GameStop is it's a retail shop for gamers. You know, they sell video games, and a lot of these people are gamers. They play video games. It's like their favorite form of entertainment. So they got upset that all these Wall Street people were targeting and trying to tank this gaming shop. So they got together and they tried to basically screw with Wall Street. And then, you know, on Thursday, the brokerages, like I said, they stopped people from buying the stock and other stocks, and those stocks plummeted. So that's the Empire Strikes Back part of the story. But basically, yeah, it's like a drama going on between the small people, social media, on one side, and Wall Street on the other side. And I don't know how this is going to play out, but I mean, in the meantime, people are losing money, making money, but it's certainly an interesting story. So this is the starting point for our discussion, I guess.
Well, there is theories because some of the people who are saying to save GameStop have not really been identified. So there is also discussion that basically it wasn't just Reddit users, but other people essentially coming into Reddit, basically manipulating it. So that's another part of the story. There's a lot of stuff that's not known about this. It is a very kind of odd situation.
Well,
Yeah, it could have been a big investor, yeah, that started it. You never know. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's a lot of people that got involved. You know, a lot of people that got involved on both sides. On the side of the investors, you know, even Elon Musk, and that was when that was kind of an important part of, well, not a key part of it, but when Elon Musk started tweeting about it, the stock went up a lot, because everything that Elon Musk tweets about goes up a lot as soon as he tweets it. And so a lot of these personalities, I think Kanye West got into it as well. So a lot of these personalities are getting into it. AOC is saying that they should hold hearings. Ted Cruz, because there's been a considerable market manipulation on Thursday to impede people from buying the stocks and basically save. Well, I don't know if this was intentional, but it ended up basically saving these funds to some extent because they stopped losing money.
Well, the CEO of Robinhood is claiming that they didn't do this to save funds, but basically, essentially, their system got overloaded. So at that point, they couldn't fulfill the request to do it. And now what happens is when you place, especially as a retail trader, your trade isn't always prioritized. You can't always get. So if I were to just say right now, buy 100 shares of GameStop, that wouldn't necessarily mean it would immediately process it. It would actually still take time because it has to find, in a lot of cases with an order like that, it'd be bought in blocks. So, you know, maybe they'd buy 20 shares now, 20 shares an hour from now, 20 shares 2 hours from now. So there's no guarantee you'll get the fixed price. So what's the argument that Robinhood is making was that basically they couldn't meet all the orders to buy. So that's why they essentially slowed them down.
Who is Robinhood? Tell me about that.
Robinhood's a brokerage. They're one of these kind of new small cap brokerage, basically for essentially retail traders is what they're designed for. They're like kind of with like Ameritrade and Schwab, but even less. I hadn't heard of them until this week, but even less kind of organized. They're more for kind of just your basic hobbyist trader.
Yeah, it's basically a brokerage for amateur traders or millennial traders, if you will. You know, like that's how it got big.
It's an app on your phone that you could just easily buy and sell.
Yeah, like commission free.
So does it have anything to do with robbing from the rich and giving to the poor?
Well, yeah, I mean, they got that name because they use that name because the whole idea is that they're supposed to be democratizing finance, right? So they're allowing the little guy to get in the game, right? Play the game of capitalism and actually win. But the irony of this is, the irony that people, a lot of people are pointing out is that this time the little guy was actually sticking it to the man. A lot of these funds were losing a lot of money on these stocks, and a lot of people, retail traders like little people, were making a lot, not a lot of money, but well, I guess it depends on the person. But these people were making money, right?
Well,
A lot of people.
and that means 401ks.
No, this is a
No?
little bit, yeah, these are not people that do 401ks, or if they
Oh,
do,
okay.
I mean, this is a thing that it's like you buy your own stocks, right? You buy your own stocks, you buy your own assets. Uh, it's a brokerage, right?
Yeah, but
You have stocks, right, David? So
401k, yeah, I do. 401ks, though, they invest in stock and mutual funds. So if you manipulate a stock, if any 401k owns some of that, then it affects them.
Sure.
yeah, I'm not really sure how a 401k works exactly, but you can't really choose your own stocks, can you?
You can.
Well,
Is that how it-
broadly,
You choose a portfolio. Yeah, you choose a portfolio to a certain level. Like if you want it to be high risk versus low risk, you can decide on that. I don't know if you can actually decide, like pick a specific stock, but you
I'm
can
about
just
to look
choose
at mine
from what
right
level.
now. So
It depends
but-
how it's structured.
But do you buy the stocks and sell the stocks? Is that how it
you
works?
don't individually buy and sell the stock. A manager buys and sells stock. And
Right. In this case, Robinhood,
select-
you do it
select
yourself.
broad categories, like you were saying, risk, at varying risk.
Right, but this
But
is where
Most of the 401ks are like, you can put your money in some funds just to like diversify, because these funds are diversified, so it manages your risk. And then there are funds which are maybe a little bit more riskier assets. Depending on your risk profile, you can choose them, or simple treasury bonds, that type of stuff, which are the least risky, but will only get you like 3%, 4% interest rate on your 401k. But yeah, I mean, like, if there's any stock in your 401k, in your fund, and that stock is being manipulated, of course it's going to impact your
Well, I guess what I was wondering is if, and I realize I have several ifs in a row here, but if a manager of a 401k fund, like Principal does a lot of 401k stuff for companies,
Sure.
if part of the selection criteria includes a stock that was being manipulated by this group, then at some point what they did affected innocent people.
Sure, but like the thing is that like the stock was not entirely manipulated by the millennium traders. Yeah, the millennium traders had some impact, actually a big impact on the price of the stock as it exists today. But but there was a lot of shorting, like of the stock going on with, and most of the shorting was naked. Like you didn't have an underlying asset, but you're still shorting the stock, and that's only done by big hedge funds. So like say, imagine like you have 60 million shares, all right, and 90 million of those are shorted.
That's kind of hard for me to imagine.
Yeah, I'm just saying like 90 million of them are shorted, of which 30 million are naked shorts. All right. So now only the big hedge funds can do shenanigans like that to drive the price of the stock down. Now, suddenly these millennials said, "Oh, what? We don't like this. We want to help this guy. We're going to buy their stock." So what they did was they started buying whatever stocks they could get, and then they started buying these call options, which is like the ability to purchase a stock at a future point of time at a certain strike price. Say the price is $20 now. You think that the price of the stock is going up by $30 in 2 years time, and so you purchase that option to buy that stock 2 years from now at that particular price point. If it is less than price point, you lose. If it is more, you gain. All right. But when you do that, when you buy a call option, then the hedge fund managers or the risk managers have to buy that underlying asset. So what that did was created this massive short squeeze, which just propelled the value of the stock. So then, they started restricting all these shenanigans of like not making you making sure that like you can't buy the stock, you can't buy the call option. If you want to buy, you have to call E-Trade, and good luck there with 1 hour whole time when the price of that of the stock was going up and down like crazy within minutes, seconds. So that was a little bit of like a subterfuge, because it seemed like there's a different level of like rules for like small retail traders who are ganging up, which they were doing to drive the price of the stock up, which was only possible because it was shorted to such a high extent. If it was not shorted to high an extent, this stock would have never gone up that much. So that's where that's where like I think like some raw feelings were there. Like, well, when the hedge funds do that, the hedge funds will come and say, oh, you know what? I put $200 million on this stock, and because you're a hedge fund, the stock will just go up. All right, more people will start buying it. Then they have all these sophisticated AI and supercomputers which will drive the stock up like yo-yo. It is frightening when they do that. You can see like the stock drop immediately, like within seconds, like 30-40 points, and then just goes back up. That's all supercomputer trading. And then their capability to like place bets after the market closes. So there are a lot of tools which is available to them, which is not available to a normal retailer.
Yeah. Rupinder pointing out the fact that, and this is very true. I mean, the big people, the big money manipulate stuff all the time. Like in the with the tools that they have, and they usually make money, right? They make money, and other people, the small people lose money. But in this case, they lost that battle, and people were thanks to social media, this is the first time in history that people can organize on this scale. Actually, normal, everyday people actually manipulated the market in some way, in a much less organized way, let's say, which is also true, because this is like social media, it's not that organized. But if enough people start talking about a stock and buy it at the same time, the price is probably going to go up, which was part of what happened in this case. But the interesting thing is, when the very rich people, were losing a lot of money, these funds, because they were trying to tank the stock, and the stock was just kept going up, the brokerages forbid people from buying the stock, and the stocks completely crashed. So there's definitely, when one side, when the big banks, when the big funds do something to manipulate the market, that's okay. But when the people do it, that doesn't seem to be okay. So, I mean,
So if I understand what you're saying, it's possible that a person was invested in one of these target companies and totally oblivious to everything that was going on, and their stock tanked
or went up.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, I had a couple.
So here's the problem.
I had a couple of stocks that got caught in the circus, and then I got into some because of the circus. But a couple of these stocks I had it for months and months, before this, American Airlines and AMC, and I actually ended up making money on those quite a bit, in spite of the crossfire. But a lot of people, I'm sure, whoever was involved with these stocks, I mean, you got caught in the crossfire, for good or for bad, depending on the circumstances.
So here's the problem. The way I see it, how the trading have transitioned from something that the experts do years and years back to now everybody have a trading platform in their pocket where they can, in a couple of clicks, buy some company stocks and have ownership in it. And that made this whole trading thing more risky for everyone involved. You're no longer looking at, financial statements of the company, see how it's doing, what is the projection and all of that, and be able to say, okay, I want to invest in this company. Now you see like, oh, the stock is going up, or people are talking about it, or Elon Musk said something about it, so I'm going to go and buy it. And that's that, if you want to do it that way, you should expect some, potential either losses or wins if you're lucky,
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I'm going to point out here one thing we're missing here is why GameStop is not a profitable company. None of this is based upon any fundamentals of GameStop. It is a failing company.
It's not.
There is a good reason why. The idea that hedge funds were just shorting it for the sake of shorting it was not that wasn't. There's a little bit more to the story.
The value of the company.
Right. They were shorting it because it was essentially a failing company. I mean, this is a problem with this story is that it's been framed as, plucky millennials trading on social media versus big evil hedge funds. It's far more complicated than that.
Yeah. No, it is a failing company. You're right, Sisher. There's also like the new honcho which came up to own the company, Ryan Cohen. He's a well-respected CEO. He's bought a lot. He's got a lot of turnaround stories in his name, and his big oomph was to kind of like shut down some retail stores and place bets and place the bet of this entire company online to drive online efforts. Yeah. So eventually GameStop stock price is going to reflect its fundamental financials. It's going to come down. When it's going to come down, I don't know. But there are enough stocks in
Place
this
your bets
entire
here.
market which are which don't reflect their business fundamentals, because the markets can be irrational for quite some time before they become rational.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. The market, there's a lot of irrationality in it. That said, a 400% growth in GameStop is way beyond typical market irrationality. I mean, this is a true bubble.
But okay, but like, well, you could make an argument like this for so many stocks. Yeah, GameStop clearly, like
the idea that stocks like this day and age reflect the actual value of the companies. I mean, it's almost ridiculous at this point, because that's just not true. That's just not true for so many stocks.
Yes.
The idea is in the long run, they kind of have to, the price kind of has to be forced to go to their true value, because in the short run, no, but in the long run, I would say yes. And that is the thing. I think these people on Reddit, they just don't really understand how the market works. Like, they think they did this great thing, but I think they just have a poor understanding of the stock can't remain at that price for very long. It's going to have to come down because the true value of the company isn't that. And I don't know, maybe it'll take a year before it goes down or whatever. But at some point, if the company's not producing earnings, the share price can't be sustained at that level. Because let's say GameStop went out of business and had to liquidate, then you're just stuck with nothing at that point. So it can't stay that high forever.
True, but like I don't think it's ingenuous to like say that like the Reddit owners, Reddit traders did not know what they were doing. They exactly knew what they were doing. They knew that this company was superlatively shorted. So when there's no underlying asset available or very few shares available, when you buy and the stock goes up, and when the short seller is going to lose money because the stock is going up, what they will do is they will start buying more. Because there's and this creates this frenzy, and they understood that phenomena. There was nothing illegal what was being done here, except that like they gamed the system the way the system was structured and made.
Is it possible?
Why would you short a stock which was shorted by hedge funds and other people? Like, literally more than what the underlying asset was. If you're going to do that, of course, there's going to be some repercussions if people start to game the system by like ganging up and buying stock or holding it, because now there's no more stock for you to like sell. So this creates this perpetual frenzy of higher stock prices. So the problem is not with Reddit. I think the problem is with like rules like regarding shorting. Maybe you should like look at that and say what would be a good like you cannot like short a stock more than 30% or 20% of its outstanding shares. If that would have been the case, then this would never have happened, you know.
Well, no, this is true. Yes, and there's like 140% short on GameStop at the beginning of the week. That said, the situation though comes back to the people on Reddit used actual money to purchase the stocks that they're buying.
Yeah.
And this is the point though. Yeah, if I bought GameStop stock on Monday and I'm still holding it today, yes, it would be, let's say I bought $10,000 worth of GameStop. Yeah, I would have like $400,000 right now. That said, the only way I actually realize that profit is I have to sell it at some point.
Yeah.
If I don't sell it, I mean, this is the classic problem with bubbles is GameStop's going to come down.
Well,
and
there's no doubt
people won't get out of it.
People don't want to. I don't think people want to keep it, Sashir. That's not the goal. Like nobody that buys GameStop wants to keep, like almost, I mean, maybe someone, I don't know. I'm not going to say nobody, but look, I mean, that's not the goal, right? These people are trying, I mean, in the beginning, from what I understood, they're just trying to save the company and like stick it to the man, basically. That doesn't mean they're going to keep the stock forever, right? I mean, I don't think that anyone, I mean, not anyone, maybe someone, but
that's crazy then, because if you, at some point, there's going to be a mass sell-off of GameStop.
Of course,
GameStop's going to end
worse. You get out before that. You get out before.
You're right. I mean, like at some
point, but if millions of people sell GameStop, all the millions who bought GameStop, the price is going to plummet. If you're at the end of that, yeah, you're going to get reamed.
Yeah,
that's it's irrational.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's like a house of cards. Whoever's at the bottom will lose. So if you got to get out first, then you'll be okay. But if you're one of the people at the end that doesn't jump ship in time, then you lose all. So it's like, yeah, I don't know.
It's like, yeah, if you get out, if you buy it at 10 and you exit at 300, that's a pretty good deal, right? Like if you buy it, at 300 and you exit at 10, that's not a good deal, right? I mean, it depends on the timing.
Nobody should be buying GameStop stock now, period. If they are, then they are just basically gamblers.
There are people buying GameStop now, actually. There are, but I mean, I wouldn't buy it right now, but there are people. But when it was going up, from 200 to 300 in a matter of hours, I mean, buying at 300 seemed like a pretty good idea. Now it doesn't, but it's basically, it's like gambling, right? I mean, you try to make some money.
Right, but this is the point: is they're not really saving the company. At some point, the company stock is going to take a tumble.
Yeah, if the company is smart, they should issue shares right now, and take advantage of their stock price, and that's what they should do. They can wipe out their entire liabilities off, man, if they sell the stock right now. If they issue like 10 million shares, it will bring the price down, but they'll benefit a lot,
Yeah, I mean, this is I don't know exactly how it works, but certainly, if your stocks got brought to, almost nothing, I mean, that's not going to be good for the company. If the stocks go up a lot, even if it is for a period of time, I mean, that's certainly more beneficial for the company. I mean, that's what we've seen with AMC. We're seeing that with AMC now, for example. But I don't know. I think, but we're getting a little bit too technical, maybe. I don't know. I think that the most interesting thing is just the general questions about how capitalism works, and I don't know. I think there's something like fundamentally wrong with how things work, and examples like this, I think they highlight that. I mean, maybe we disagree on what it is wrong, but I think it's interesting to talk about. This is another episode of Capitalism in the 21st Century.
So now let me make sure I understand what you're saying.
Mixed
Yeah.
economy.
Are you saying that if people manipulate stock and ordinary people who have owned that stock for a long time, if the value of their investment goes down, that is how you perceive capitalism?
No, I think
No, that's not what I'm saying. No.
Okay, well, I don't understand what you're saying.
No, I mean, capitalism is the system. Capitalism. Even though, I mean, Frank is like gonna say
Yeah.
it's the wrong word, but
It's
that's
mixed economy. We have a mixed economy.
a mixed economy. I mean, it's certainly not a free market, as we've seen this week.
It has aspects of a market economy, although it does have a command economy, and we do still have agricultural or traditional economy aspects. So yes, it is a mixed economy.
So yeah, our mixed economy. But when I was talking about capitalism, I was talking about the system. I wasn't talking about it. What did you just ask me if it's about manipulating stocks? I mean, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about the system, and I mean, manipulating stock. Look, I mean, hedge funds do that all the time. Manipulate, like when there's enough people that get in some sort of organized way into a stock, either to make it go up or go down, you're manipulating the stock to some extent. I mean, that's been going on, forever, and that's how the stock market works. I mean, but it's usually done from the top, not from the bottom. And before social media, there was no way that people could do it from the bottom, by the way,
Yeah.
But now there is.
A good example was during the COVID times. Like, remember when COVID was just starting, and a lot of politicians held a meeting where information was disseminated about COVID and how it's going to impact the United States. And immediately after that meeting, literally everyone was selling their portfolio. So information was not available. Information, as far as like stock economy is concerned, should be disseminated to everyone at the same time, so there's a level playing field. If the financials of the company are known, then yes, those financials should be available to everyone at the same time. If you know of a pertinent material information which can like impact the value of your portfolio or stocks, and only like 40 politicians, top politicians and hedge fund portfolios know that in the United States during the time when COVID was just starting, that is wrong, because they got out, they shorted stocks, and the poor guy down at the bottom of the retail chain suffered.
So now we're talking about insider trading.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a
what I
whole
was
bunch of
gonna
That was
different.
insider trading, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of different things that we're talking about, and I feel like, yeah, a lot of times people just don't understand the math, so they feel like they stuck it to somebody or like they got their revenge, but really, they either just took more risk or they won in the short run but not the long run. I feel like people who don't know the math get confused and they don't realize that they're not actually winning. They just don't get the math.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I've heard a lot about how this is an unprecedented thing, and I might be being a little dramatic here, but if any of you guys remember the cause of the Great Depression, the stock market crash, a lot of it had to do with just this new crazy thing called credit, and a lot of investment was being made in the stock market, not just by millionaires or anything.
On the margin.
Yep, by every single person, every single walk of life, just investing in every area willy-nilly.
Exactly. So the Great Depression is a great example of where someone made investments where the general public made investments where they thought were really shrewd, or like they were making some really good decisions and then when it crashed, then reality sunk in. So it's like they're in this mindset that they've outsmarted the system, and they haven't. They're just, yeah.
Right. One of the most famous stories about stocks and investing is the Dutch tulip craze in the 17th
The
century.
tulip bubble.
Right. And that's the object lesson about that, about where people were just bidding up tulip prices or tulip futures, I guess is what it would be. And of course, that just, that's not going to last because there's no real value behind tulips. At some point, people just don't want to buy tulips. And then the market collapse.
We can understand
Yeah.
this whole thing via Beanie Babies, actually. Beanie Babies are an excellent analogy. Although,
I mean, of course, I mean,
Although the demand for those was not strictly driven by their intrinsic value.
well, this didn't have intrinsic. GameStop stock was only at $3.33 when this started.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons
They actually downplayed it. The inflation wasn't 400%. It was 2,500%. It was 400% would have just been $12. That's not that big of a deal.
one of the criteria that I use for the stocks that I invest in are what do I think is the intrinsic value of what they do, and that has nothing to do with what was going on at Reddit.
No.
Yeah, but you have to compare that to the price. You can't say like, oh, I think this company is.
No, I'm just talking about me. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about a strategy. Future performance is past performance is no indication of future activity.
Well, that's a Warren Buffett strategy where he says he doesn't invest in companies unless he understands them.
Well, and there are many things about a profit and loss statement and a price earnings ratio that all escapes me. But at the same time, if I see that,
Second, I'll be back in a minute. I got to take a call.
okay.
or if I perceive that what a company is doing is valuable beyond how it's currently cherished in the wider community, then that merits looking at. I mean, that's what I do. I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm just saying that's what I do. And the reason that I do that is because I don't know all this other stuff. And and my interest in more money is not strong enough for me to figure it all out, how to manipulate the market.
Right. I think, I mean, there's a lot of what these guys on Reddit do. I mean, these are traders. They're speculators. So they don't really care about the long term. They want to get in. They want to make some money and they want to get out. I mean, that's mostly and in the process have more money than they had at the start. I think that's the biggest motivation. But
It's like a hot potato, right? It's like each one's trying to pass the hot potato. Whoever ends up with it loses, right? So you're hoping you don't end up with that hot potato.
yeah, you want to buy for 50, sell for 60 and move on, and do that a bunch of times. That's that's the goal. I mean, speculation though. I mean, speculation is kind of a problem in the stock market in general.
Let me put it this way. I invest in Tesla because I think electric cars have a value and a future beyond the money I could make, by investing in Tesla. In other words, and if SpaceX and Starlink and Neuralink were publicly held, I would invest in them.
Right.
I'm not that enthralled with Elon Musk, but and I know he's had some failures, but Tesla is something that I think is valuable.
Well, a lot of people do. That's why that's a big part of why the company became 10 times more valuable in the past year. But yeah, I think there's a problem when the rules are different for some people than they are for others. I think that's not necessarily a free market, regardless of motivations. Because just putting a lot of money. That's why, like someone said recently. I mean, that's a problem with capitalism. That instead, a big hedge fund, pouring billions of dollars into running a company into the ground. I mean, is really that? I mean, that's capitalism. I mean, there should be a better use for using billions of dollars, right? You should put billions of dollars into, like you say, David, like if you want to use your billions of dollars, I mean, a better way for capitalism to be structured, for the economy to be structured, would be for us to have a system where you can actually invest money on stuff that produce and that make society better, instead of pouring millions of dollars, billions of dollars into running companies into the ground or into just speculating.
I think there's still a little confusion about the math. So like short selling, you're borrowing shares from someone else. So exactly how the mechanics of it work get a little complicated, but let's even just take buying a normal stock, right? I mean, if you're buying that stock, then that money has to go to someone else, and that someone else could use the money to do other stuff with. So I guess the fact that the math is complicated, I feel like just causes people to like feel certain emotions that I feel like don't necessarily reflect the reality of the situation, but I don't know.
I mean, I think you're right, Bruno, that it's wrong that, these people with hedge funds are pretty much getting a separate set of rules from these people at the bottom. I do think you're right on that. But I'd be entirely lying if I said I'm looking at this and I am worried. I look at this and I go, this is a new unprecedented occurrence to which we have yet to know the long-term effects. And for fuck's sake, how many long-term effects have we already gone through in the past year? I mean, I don't think anyone's in the best mind right now to be optimistic.
Well, I think there's the question about, is it fair that hedge funds have advantages over normal people in terms of trading?
Yep.
So that question, I think, is something like, is not right. Like that they have these advantages where they can trade faster or skip the line, or there's all these tricks they can do. So there's that question. And then there's the question of just sort of buying stocks in general and just having hedge funds to begin with.
There's a couple of issues here. Yes, hedge funds do. I mean, this isn't just hedge funds. It's quote the large cap traders versus small cap traders. And the large cap traders always have more advantages than small cap traders. I mean, again, the argument put out by Robinhood is that they weren't deliberately, this was not some sort of plot to save hedge funds, but they literally couldn't keep up with the orders. And if you have 1 million people placing 1 million orders versus, if you have 1 million people placing an order for $1 versus one big cap trader placing one order for $1 million, which one is easier to process? And so that comes down to that it's easier to process one big ass order than it is to process several, thousands of small orders. And again, I don't know.
That's a very suspicious argument. If that's their argument, I think that's a very suspicious argument.
That was what the CEO of Robinhood said today. And again, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, my question is How many people were involved in this? Millions, really?
Millions.
A lot of people. A lot of people. I mean,
And is the consensus that those millions of people understood what was happening?
Quite a few of them did.
I mean,
No,
most.
I'm not asking about the quite a few. I'm asking about the.
What do you mean exactly by that? Understood what was going on?
In other words, rather than a large concerted effort, could it be that these millions of people were manipulated by people who knew what would happen?
This is one of the things that could be out there. Nobody knows.
Well, I mean, we're talking about so many people. I mean, so many people, like people that have been reading about finance in this week. I mean, everybody knew about this. You know, it's impossible for someone not to know about this if you've been reading about finance this week, because it was like the first news that it would appear, right? So everybody read about it. If you have a smartphone and you look these things up, right? I mean, it would just appear on your smartphone. So everybody got involved in even as a spectator, even just as a spectator.
I feel really stupid because I did not know anything about this.
Well, I'm not saying everybody in the world or even in the United States saw it, but people that, like, if you have a smartphone and you read finance news, it would probably show up in your smartphone. That's what
For all people part of SET interested in finance, know of Reddit plan. I don't know, something like that.
Well, this was not just about Reddit though. This was like in all major publications published repeated news about GameStop, AMC this week, Reddit versus Wall Street. I mean, it's impossible to miss. If you're looking at these things on a smartphone, it's impossible because this is everywhere. This was everywhere this week.
Oh yeah, it was on the front page of CNN.
Exactly. I mean, anywhere. It's CNN or any Wall Street Journal. I mean, any possible publication that you can think of had news about this. So if you hadn't been reading the news, then yeah, you wouldn't know. But if you had been reading those types of news, yeah, I mean, everybody was aware that this was going on. And that's what created the volume.
Right, but one thing, this actually gets to a broader question because there is such a thing as manufactured consent, and at this point, again, this is one of the unknowns: is about were the people on Reddit being manipulated themselves. I mean, it's nobody knows for sure. I mean, this is a question that said chances are there's somebody who's actually made money off of this.
Probably.
Like. What do you mean by that? Like made, like who? What do you mean by that exactly?
If you can trade fast enough, yeah, volatility of any sort, you can certainly make money. I mean, if I could have gotten in on GameStop, and for the record, I did not buy GameStop. I'm not touching that at 10, and I have a good sense it's going to rise to 300. Oh yeah, I could make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Well, only if the initiative really. But the thing is, I think this is again not understanding the math, because it's like, let's say you have a hot potato, and you're saying, well, I don't want to keep the hot potato, I want to pass the hot potato, but you don't know if you're going to be the last one to end up with it or not. So you might say, oh, you might have a 95% chance of being able to pass that hot potato, but there's a 5% chance that you'll be stuck with the hot potato and no one will be willing to take it from you. And if you get that 5%, then you lose everything.
Unless you can manipulate millions of people to do what you want them to do.
Right. That's the key. Is yes. It's just like if I'm sitting at the blackjack table.
You reduce that
5%.
5% down to a fraction of 1%.
But so let's say you could reduce that 5% down to 1%, right? And so then the stock goes even higher. But then if you lose on that 1%, then it's an even bigger loss. So it's like the way the math works, the smaller that percent gets, let's say you get the 5% to a 1%, then if that 1% does happen, it's a 5 times as big loss.
So a very small select few of people are really going to get effed out the A here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And be left holding the bag.
But you don't really know. Like you might think, oh, I'm a fast guy, I'm going to take the hot potato and pass it. But that hot potato can end any time, really.
Yep.
Anytime people, you don't know when that hot potato is going to end. So you really could get stuck with it.
And I am not interested enough in money to play that game.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
even if you were, yeah,
I
even
like
if you
that,
were
David.
interested,
That is a variable, Russian roulette of finance right there. That is 5 people here are going to have have a great summer, and this one guy here's whole life's going to be ruined.
Exactly. Yeah.
A person reaches Maslow's hierarchy of needs plus internet.
Right, but
well,
this is
basically what goes on with every single stock out there. The only difference in this case is that it's more volatile. That's the only difference.
right, but volatility makes a huge difference.
It's a huge difference. Yeah, but look, I know people, like I lost some money with the stock, not a lot of money. I lost a little bit of money with the stock because I did buy too high, and among other things, on Thursday, the stock was you couldn't buy the stock anymore, and you had to sell. So that's what happened to me. I got stuck with the stock that people couldn't buy and had to sell. Of course, it's going to go down. Like every single stock that you do that, it's going to go down. I mean, I think that's a big problem, and that's what people are revolting about is that. If that it's not a free market. Like you're only allowed to do this up to a certain point, and then out of nowhere your brokerage that can say no, okay, so we're not gonna let this go anymore. We're not gonna let people buy this anymore. Imagine if that happens to Apple, a $1 trillion company. What would happen to Apple was what happened to AMC, to GameStop. It would lose half its value in one day. That's what happened to these shares, and I personally, I didn't lose, I lost a bit of money, not a lot. I mean, it was, I didn't even have a pretty big position in it. I'm sure a lot of people, I know someone who lost a lot of money or a considerable amount of money. I know people that made money on that stock. I mean, but that's just like any other stock except more wild. But the crazy thing is that they can just stop people from trading all of a sudden, and people would just lose money, and a company's share would just tumble half, 50% or 60% or 70% in one day just because of that decision. If you prohibit people from buying stocks and you let them sell it, I mean, what's going to happen? I definitely think that needs to be regulated in the future, because it can't just be something that the brokerages do when the stock goes up too much, because it's crazy. It's crazy that, I mean, if we're talking about important people here and not just, the proletariat, I mean, it would be a very different story. That's something that is wrong with the system.
Except you have to look at it from the other side. I mean, generally these circuit breakers are designed. I mean, I don't know if you ever
Well, but what kind of circuit breaker is that? A circuit breaker in the New York Stock Exchange is that you stop trading. You stop trading for a while so people can reflect on it, right?
Oh, okay. Except, let me finish here. Did you ever see the movie Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
I watched Wolf.
I saw the Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay. What was going on there was that they were getting people to buy stocks that had no real intrinsic value and pumping up the value of the stock. The reason why the regulations actually were put in to slow down, the circuit breakers weren't just to stop a massive sell-off, but they were also basically put in there to essentially keep people from saying, well, hey, I see whatever, company, beer bottle is shooting up in value. Beer bottle might not have more value, but, I'm getting calls and messages saying, hey, buy a beer bottle, now, buy as much as you can. You put all your savings into beer bottle. At some point, beer bottle is going to drop because it has no fundamentals. But that's the flip side of saying why maybe just letting people buy stocks just at whatever isn't. But in this case, in the short term, it seems like yes, it's hurting the small cap investor while benefiting the big investor. We really have no idea what's going to happen in the long term. Well, I can tell you for sure in the long term, GameStop is going to drop. I'm pretty sure about that.
Of course, it's going to drop. There's no question about it. In the short term, they made a stock that was going up. They made it go down. You know, if that's not like
that is manipulation.
The course of events.
That's not cool.
I don't know what is.
Right, but that's a caveat emptor argument because you're counting on that you can get out of GameStop in time to make back your money. We don't know that. That's a risk.
It doesn't matter whether you make money or lose money.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that like you can have a circuit breaker. You can stop trading.
That's
Perfectly legit. You cannot stop people from buying or selling after you have stopped trading, after the stock is back on. That is sheer manipulation. If you're only telling the people that like all you can do is sell the stock, you can't buy it.
You're talking about fundamentals.
That has not happened.
Right, but again,
in this whole economic capitalism society of the United States ever, man.
If you did that to Apple, the biggest company in the world, it would tumble, man. It would crash in one day. It doesn't matter what company you're doing it to. Yes, I agree with you. Everybody knows that GameStop is not worth like $300 something a share. I mean, nobody really was buying it for that. Do you think like anyone was buying it for that reason? Nobody was buying it for that reason.
Well, then what would be the issue of not allowing? I mean, again, this is this argument that, well, yes, GameStop has, but we should just allow people to buy it. I mean, again, we don't know the answer. Again, honestly,
you're gonna step in and tell people that they can't buy certain stocks and destroy them. I mean, how's that fair to that company and to the people?
What was the Wolf of Wall Street fair? I mean, should Jordan?
It's a completely different situation, man. You're saying
They
that
should wait. You said and destroy them. By them, do you mean GameStop or do you mean the customer or
both? Both. I mean,
because GameStop is dead.
What do you mean it's dead?
It's dead. I mean, everything that goes up with this bubble right now is going to come crashing down. Its death warrant has already been signed. It's dead.
Oh yeah, GameStop might be worse off after this.
They are going to be worse off.
That's not true, man. I mean, I don't know what you mean by that, but
we don't know that.
We don't know that.
I know for sure their stock's going to drop.
No, so it will drop. I mean, like I think
you are right. I do not know.
Valuation is like what 10 billion plus.
Well, of course you don't know. Nobody knows. That's my point.
But what I'm saying is that okay, the current valuation is 10 billion plus. We agree this is a little high for this retailer who's a global retailer, by the way. They have physical retail shops all over the world.
Yeah, it's
sure. So did Blockbuster.
Now they got a change of CEO. An interesting guy comes in and takes over the company. He owns majority stake. Okay. So there's some faith in that guy that like, okay, this could be a turnaround story. So we don't know what the outcome of this GameStop is going to be, 5 years, 10 years from now. Imagine if Elon Musk took over GameStop.
Yep.
What would people think would be the value of this company 5 years, 10 years from now? The same thing. Like Ryan Cohen is not Elon Musk, but he is a pretty well turnaround artist, Yeah,
and they might. I'm just saying 2 weeks from now, GameStop's not going to be worth 10 billion.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could
It doesn't matter whether it's like 2 weeks because markets are irrational for long periods of time.
Exactly. It's irrational.
You could say that about a lot of companies that they're overpriced.
I can say Tesla is irrational right now.
It is. It's overpriced. Are you going to do that to Tesla and crash it in one day?
I think
sure, Tesla might come down. I know some people have actually shorted.
That's completely.
I think all of you
I have not.
I think all of you are used to being rational people in an irrational world.
Are we coming back to the article from New York Times? That's just shared.
Right. Well, New Yorker, not New York Times.
Oh,
But anyway,
yeah.
I'm just saying we don't know the facts. I think this argument that
Well,
somehow
we
it's a
do
fake
we
guy.
do know the facts though. Like we don't know everything that is.
Okay, well you don't believe the CEO of Robinhood. That's an
Well,
opinion.
I don't.
not a
I
fact.
don't know. I think if that's what they said, it's
The
very.
fact is he said that. Now, is that true or not? I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't know if it's true.
How would we know it's true? We would need either evidence or a way to convince us of that evidence.
Exactly. Yes.
It's not just the CEO of Robinhood. Like
Okay.
every major brokerage house did pull some strange shenanigans. Like in E-Trade, like you could purchase the stock, but you have to like call them.
This is the only thing.
That's like stupid. I mean, like
I know Schwab.
they're on the call and it's like a 30-minute call going nowhere.
I know Schwab sent me an email saying they were slowing down trading. Now, I wasn't involved in this, so it didn't affect me. But that said, I again, the argument that they couldn't meet the demand of meeting the amount of transactions, I honestly don't know. I don't know enough about Robinhood. I never heard of it until this week. I'm not going to dismiss it though completely out of hand just by claiming that, oh, this is just them trying to save the big boys and screw the little guys. I don't know if Robinhood's model. It seemed weird because they make money off commission, so they would want more trades. Again, there's a lot of stuff we don't know.
They don't
it's
make
plausible.
They don't make on commission. They don't make money on. That's not how they make their money.
Well, how does Robinhood make money? As a brokerage.
Well, it's not commission because it's commission free. How they make their money exactly, I do not know because I don't know.
Some
How
advertising.
I think they make their money also on arbitrage.
Michael, were you saying something?
Oh, so yeah, even if selling something helps a business, which I'm not sure if it does with Robinhood, but even if that is the case, sometimes just businesses, if they're overwhelmed, they can't keep up with the demand. So I know of several different companies where and you see this all the time on Shark Tank too, where they want to sell more, but they can't keep up with the demand because they just can't get it all ready in time. So I think it's possible that the CEO could be telling the truth. I don't know for certain, but I think it's plausible.
I understand, and I think I agree with what you're saying, if I understand it. But if in the process of sticking it to the people you perceive as evil, you hurt innocent people, then that is generally not the right thing to do.
Or for the CEO, you mean, or for Robinhood?
No, for anybody.
For anybody, yeah.
I mean, if I have a problem with an evil person, a person that I perceive as evil, and causing them damage also affects you, that's not the right thing to do.
How evil is the person?
Well, this is called a Pyrrhic victory.
Is that your estimate of Michael, Frank?
Like, I mean, if Hitler was standing behind Michael and I had a gun, I'd be like, Michael, you're a good guy, but that guy's so evil. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael. You're just not a good human shield.
Yeah.
He needs to die. I mean,
but yeah, like I mean, personally, like I'm sometimes skeptical of CEOs. Sometimes I think they are telling the truth. I think it's kind of gray. Like my uncle, he's a lawyer, and like anything a CEO says, he's like these companies, they're always dishonest, blah blah blah. I'm not on that side. I'm also not on the side that, businesses are, great. They're everything that makes America fantastic. I'm somewhere in between, and I think some CEOs can say good things.
I think you and I are in violent agreement.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe
Well-
he is a total bald-faced liar. I think it's like a probability distribution, and I feel like this gets on a lot of people's nerves when I don't commit one way or the other. They're like,
No,
"Am I just wishy-washy?" I just,
no,
I-
you're
but yeah.
thinking about this appropriately and logically. Uh,
But yeah.
Well, right. We just don't have enough evidence. That would be my view of it. I mean, I know so little about
Well,
Robin Hood.
the whole thing that just comes up is that this is unprecedented. That tells you everything right there. Yeah,
Right.
that's literally what it means. Historically, meaning we do not have any
Well,
evidence or
and
scenarios or anything to go off this, and it's maddening.
and this is almost the first thing that got Republicans and Democrats to agree with each other was the fact that they almost all got killed by a bunch of the Trump mob. That was the first thing that they agreed that, okay, maybe this is going a little bit way out of hand, not a little bit, way out of hand. So that was the first time. That was the first time I think they all agreed on for a while. This is the second. Because
Well, it's not the first time,
no,
because
I mean like recently.
we could not have formed this country.
No, I mean recently.
Oh,
And I'm
they
exaggerating.
weren't
I
Democrats.
mean
and
like
Republicans
recently,
back
that was
then.
the first big thing. And this is the second, Republicans and Democrats, they're both saying that this is very fishy and that there should be hearings and there's something not quite right going on here. Ted Cruz and AOC seem to be in agreement. So that's kind of a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
TK's, you don't need to wear a mask in
I like how
virtual
TK is wearing a mask on a Zoom call. That's
Hey,
some real dedication.
What's going on?
Yeah, dude, 100%. I love the mask. I just wanted to see you guys here.
So
I
this is
know, I know. You
I
love the
feel
mask.
bad. I'm not
Very
wearing
clear.
a mask. Maybe I should.
You
TK.
got
This
some
is like
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. I can't hear you guys at all. Can you guys
That's
hear
it.
me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
I
gonna
can
put
hear.
myself on.
We can hear you.
Oh boy.
TK's at some party, I think.
Oh, okay, that's why he's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
He's actually around people.
Yeah.
I know, not unless
All right, he tried. It was a valiant attempt.
God, I need a vacation.
God, I need to go into an island, man.
you're kidding. I'm in
Nice.
Egypt here. I mean, it's
It's
magical.
very-
I
very
can make like my
background there.
hand disappear.
I just need a nice beach somewhere and a book and a nice drink and to be left alone.
Sajid, your like your hair kind of like feels like as if like a fan is blowing on it, like a Bollywood.
I know,
movie.
yeah, I could totally, just
Like a Bollywood movie, like remember like there's a Bollywood scene and suddenly like you'll see the hero's
Yeah.
hair.
yeah, I
Is
could
this
I could do a
back?
Bollywood dance.
Like where's that air coming from?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Rapendra, your hair's not long enough for that.
No, mine is not that long. Sajid
I-
beat me up.
I'm not sure I can sing high enough to be on Bollywood.
You know, that's interesting is that India has a space program, and I think they're going to land a probe on the moon.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and it's in a very cost-effective way also,
Cool.
But we also have 30% of the people below poverty, so.
What's India's timetable for a manned mission?
I don't know. Does
I
anybody
think they
know?
had a probe on. They want to get a probe on Mars, or maybe they did. I don't know. Did they?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I don't think so.
There was
but
some
I
chatter
could be
about, like,
wrong.
Indian probe going on Mars. Unmanned, of course. So
But I know India has been talking about actually doing a manned mission at some point.
yeah, I don't know about that.
I think they should.
Yeah.
I like it.
Was India part of the ISS or are they not part of that?
Part
I
of
don't know. I
Part
don't
of
know.
what? Oh, the
Part of the-
International Space Station? No, I don't think so. I mean, like
So
there was a girl from my engineering college, Kalpana, who was part of the Challenger mission which blew up.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. But she
Yeah,
was an American citizen.
she was from an engineering college.
Right.
No,
She was a
so
naturalized American, was she?
she was not a naturalized American. She came from India, came here, got her citizenship. Yeah.
No, but I mean, she got American citizenship. I mean, I
Mhm.
thought you. No,
Yeah,
I know she was an
she got
immigrant.
American citizenship eventually. Yeah.
Right.
Shashir, I was gonna say I read that whole article you sent from the New Yorker, was it?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't like it.
Didn't like it. What did you like about it?
I liked what it was trying to get at, but I didn't like how it represent. Like she put Popper and Kuhn against each other. A lot of people do that, not just her, but it's really misrepresenting like how they dealt with those two things. Like Popper's stances on falsifiable evidence and Kuhn's scientific revolutions. Uh, People often say the negative side of logical positivism, Kuhn, positive side, Popper, or Popper was falsification. Kuhn, you could go against him, whatever side. But really, those two views I have found, and a lot of people have found, are pretty reconcilable. That you don't need to take an either or stance on them. There were other bits where she would bring up the areas of the Pope versus Galileo or other historical areas and brought up to rationalists wringing their hands at the advancing of science. And that is just bullshit. I mean, Francis Bacon and Rene Descartes, aka Granddaddy Rationalists, were a part of making the modern scientific method.
Right.
So that's garbage.
Well, yes, but she was making an argument, and again, it's not her argument. It's
yeah,
Freeman's
the main
argument. I
point of the
haven't read
point
that book.
is to or that she was talking the book that she was talking about the importance of using evidence to explain phenomena in the world. I mean, I've been pretty vocal because there is a lot of fields of soft sciences that I am fairly critical of, that basically the thing that makes something scientific or it doesn't is, me being more on the rationalist side, is adherence to a method, a scientific method. And she was kind of talking about how people flex that in their given areas to better benefit them. The only problem with that was actually something that Poplar talked about, is when you allow certain scientific fields or just fields that claim to be scientific to flex that area too much, you start getting an abundance of what is known as pseudosciences. That's what Poplar called them.
Yes.
People.
So the problem, no matter how you shake it out, is dogma.
Yes, science does have empiricism. Quine famously talked about empiricism does famously have dogmas to it.
Right. That's a big part of
totally
Kuhn's
agree
argument.
with that, but that is not the perception I have of the article that Shashir sent.
Okay.
Right, because the argument in the article was that yes, scientists are biased, and that's to be expected. But the nature of the argument is that basically you have to rely upon evidence. Mm-hmm. So you can be as biased as you want to, as long as you can support it with evidence.
Well, the thing about the bias, and the best way to frame this, I feel, is in epistemology, because I would say epistemology in many cases, science is subsumed under that bigger umbrella. But mainly because use of evidence goes both ways in these areas. But the bias has to do a lot with belief. And when you are showing your peers something, you're trying to convince them using correlative evidence and findings in a given test. What you're trying to do is something almost similar that mathematicians do all the time. You're trying to convince people that there is a correlation here, or that there's reason to believe in this other area. And bias absolutely can play a part. It does play a part of that in the scientific method, regardless of the use of evidence. I mean, It even goes to
except in the case of a double-blind experiment.
no, a double blind minimizes it. It does not forgo
Eliminate it. That's true. It doesn't eliminate it from your conclusions,
No.
but it does eliminate it from the process of collecting the data.
Right. But again, the argument, this iron rule, which Stevens puts out there, is that again, people are biased. There's going to be all sorts of bias and all sorts of subjectivity. The argument, though, is that the basis of scientific argument is incredibly narrow. So it's ultimately just about evidence. In other words, yeah, I can, let's take the pyramids, and since they're behind me, is I can say, well, the pyramids were built by aliens.
Yeah.
But that's actually a legitimate point of view to say.
And
The question is, can I
what
prove the
evidence
pyramids
do
were
you
built
have
by
to support your claim? I don't like to use proof of science because
I'm
science doesn't
reminded-
have
I have to
proofs.
support it.
I'm
Yep.
reminded of Carl Sagan, who said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Yes. But I think, to get to Frank's point, I think, I understand she takes the swipe at Bacon, but I think the argument there wasn't, and Descartes, wasn't so much criticisms of Bacon and Descartes as being unscientific, was that the nature of science, as following this iron rule, is incredibly narrow, and that Descartes and Bacon were generalists, whereas the direction of science has become
I'm
special.
familiar with Descartes more so than I am with Bacon.
Francis Bacon is usually credited as the main father of the scientific method.
Right.
Rene Descartes is another person, I think therefore I am. He had a huge hand in the forming of it. He was the one that I brought up initially because she discredited rationalism. Like, the hell are you talking about? We help
Well, she's
form
not
your damn
discrediting it.
rational.
She's just saying that it's a
Go
general.
to hell.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about her.
You're just upset that they took.
Yeah, I did get it.
You're just defending Renee. Renee is your best buddy.
Not my best buddy.
You got to stand up for Renee.
I will stand up for Renee.
You're just like bitch. Say what?
Say what?
What? You be talking about Renee? You don't bring that shit.
I'm gonna get my Cartesian coordinates up in your hand.
Right? Yeah.
That's not even.
If I can make a quick suggestion for Bruno, as the organizer.
Yep.
We should definitely do this argument or this discussion, with Craig, because this is really Craig's field.
Now, where is Craig?
Yeah, I mean, Craig, I don't know. He couldn't
Not here.
join us tonight. I mean, I kind of let him know, just half an hour before the thing. So
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe he was busy,
Well, I'm gonna shove off, guys.
I understand that people are busy sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
I'll see you later.
Yeah, I get some food. This is definitely a discussion we should have with Craig.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys wanna end it here? It's not. I mean, we started later today, but or do you? Is there something that you want to talk about? A different subject or something that you want to explore, or should we reconvene next week?
I'm fine reconvening next week. Yeah.
Okay.
And
At some point, we got to get to the fall of civilizations.
And I have a feeling everybody knows this except me. But where do you want to go with this? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? How do you want us to behave?
I just want to consume a bottle of wine when I'm talking to you. That's all I want, man.
I think that's
I'm drinking beer.
That's a great goal. Consume a bottle of wine while talking to you. I mean, I can definitely get on board with it. I don't know, man. I want people to have fun and to have interesting conversations.
I don't see many people, so it's good to see all your lovely faces.
Well,
Yeah.
does there need to be a purpose? There's a philosophical question.
Well, and I want.
There's nothing about the end goal, Michael. David, it's always about the journey, man.
about the journey, man. No, but
I
look,
remember Joe Rogan was asked the same question by Ben Shapiro. He has one of the biggest podcasts. It's been going on for how long, Bruno? Like decades or
Joe
like a
Rogan?
Oh,
decade?
yeah.
Yeah, like 20,
And
maybe 20 years. but
Joe
something-
Rogan, you mean? Or Ben Shapiro? I don't know about Ben Shapiro.
no, Joe Rogan's podcast.
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan's
Was he
podcast.
originally a comic? Is that how he got his fame?
I'm sorry?
Comic. He was
Joe
a
Rogan?
comic. He did mixed martial arts.
He really
and
got
was
into
on Fear
UFC.
Factor.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
What was the podcast about?
Well, Joe Rogan, actually, I just watched, he was talking to Jordan, what's that guy? Jordan Peterson. Jordan
That's a
Peterson.
good thing Frank left. He loved that.
Well, no, this is not, I mean, I'm not going to get into Jordan Peterson stuff right now, but this was an interesting like part of the conversation because Jordan Peterson actually they were talking about something else. And Jordan Peterson was like, hey, actually, I don't know if it was Jordan Peterson. He might have been a different guy, but the point is they were having a conversation and the guy asked him, hey, by the way, I was wondering like, how did you start? So basically what you were asking, David, that's why this guy actually stopped the interview. It's not an interview. It's like pretty informal, but yeah, he actually asked that question, David, like, where did you come from? Like where did this all started? So, because I didn't know, because Joe Rogan is like, he's kind of like a man of many faces. So it's hard to figure him out. But so he kind of explained it pretty briefly in that conversation. It basically went, he was a comic. Well, actually, he was kind of like, he finished high school and he got into martial arts in high school. So he started doing like some taekwondo, some kickboxing, but nothing like too serious. It was like amateur stuff, even though I think he was pretty good at it. I think he won a couple of championships in the US, like taekwondo championships. But he really started in comedy in stand-up as a stand-up comedian, right? So he started having some success as a comic, and then they got him to do, like, when he moved to LA, he got into this thing called the Fear Factor, I think, which is like a reality show. And it's pretty terrible, but basically like, your regular like reality game show kind of thing. I think it's people have to do like crazy things, you dare them to do things that are kind of scary or gross, and they have to do them. So, like Jackass kind of stuff. And then he got famous with that, and as a comic, and then the UFC. He actually he was an MMA fan. And then they asked him to comment on the UFC. But for a long time, he would just get paid by getting tickets. Like, he didn't want to get paid because he didn't want to make it a serious job. But then he eventually started getting paid, and became somewhat famous with the UFC. But the thing, and this goes back to what you're asking, Michael, he said by far, like, no one really knew like who I was, like I wasn't really a celebrity until I started the podcast. Then people started recognizing me on the street and stuff like that. But the idea that I was like, I was somewhat famous, but not really, people started recognizing him.
He has more subscribers than, I don't know, one of the news shows,
Well, he has 10 million followers, I think, on YouTube, which is a lot. But that's actually a little bit misleading, because I think it's more than that, because he goes on Spotify as well. I think actually now he's exclusive to Spotify. And he does like, he's like in iTunes and stuff.
Well,
as a podcast.
the thing of it is that you have to pay attention. When somebody has 10 million people that pay attention to them, and they're not on the mainstream media.
Yeah, and this guy
on CBS, NBC, ABC, or PBS. You have to pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure.
But Joe Rogan was on NBC for a long time. I mean, he was.
See, I didn't know that.
He was on News Radio, was kind of his big breakout.
He was what?
News Radio as a sitcom in the 90s.
Oh yeah, he was in a sitcom. Yeah, at some point. Yeah, that's right.
And then, yeah, like you said, he was on Fear Factor.
Yeah. So he was sort of like a C-list celebrity, something like that. But it really exploded, with the podcast.
Yeah.
And the podcast started in 2000.
I am totally ignorant of reality TV shows.
Well, yeah. I mean, he did like the comedy thing that she was talking about, stand-up comedy. But anyways, it started like in 2010, Michael. So that was sort of like the beginning of YouTube as a big thing. So he got there like right in the beginning. And the goal for this thing, I would like to create a platform. I mean, I'm not going to say like Joe Rogan because it's silly, it's never going to get that big, but it would be nice to have a nice platform to have good conversations,
Yeah, that's the thing. I was going to tie it back. What I was going to say is Ben Shapiro asked Joe Rogan, where are you going with this podcast? You've had so many interviews with people. Is there a place you're trying to get to? And Joe Rogan said, no, I'm just interview next person, have another conversation. I don't have a goal. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing. I mean, I think I want to do like interesting conversations with people, and create a platform. Like I said, it's not like going to be like a 10 million people platform because that's, essentially impossible. But I mean, it would be nice to have what?
Well, you never know. Could
Well,
be.
you never know. Yeah, but what are the odds?
So,
But it would be nicer to have. I mean, it would be nice to have more than 24 subscribers, but it's not bad. We started with 0, so 24.
I think we need Carolyn to show her face, and then we could get like many more subscribers.
So, Michael, let me ask you:
Yeah, there she is.
But anyways, I'm gonna stop recording this now, and so we can keep talking like in private for a little bit. But thanks for watching this. I hope you liked it, and subscribe to us if you can.